Hey guys, welcome back to another video in my tanking series. Today we're covering the Vengeance Demon Hunter. The Demon Hunter's toolkit is an interesting mix. If a Blood DK and a Guardian Druid had a tank baby, you might end up with something like the Vengeance Demon Hunter. So, let's get right into it. How do we tank as Vengeance? Basically, we keep demon spikes up as much as possible, which gives us a nice chunk of armor based on our mastery. For any damage we take outside of that, we heal ourselves back up with soul fragments. Soul fragments are part of a passive ability we have that generates these purple orbs on the ground when we kill an enemy. Walking through these orbs will heal us, and we can also generate lesser soul fragments with an ability called Shear. Consuming one of these lesser soul fragments will heal us for 6% of the damage we took in the last 5 seconds, or 1% of our max HP. Soul Cleave is an ability we have that costs 30 Fury and consumes 2 soul fragments to heal us on demand, so we don't have to worry about physically walking through any soul fragments laying on the ground. So, to summarize, keep demon spikes up as much as possible to help mitigate incoming damage. Buff the effectiveness of your demon spikes by stacking mastery. Use Shear to generate Fury, and then spend that Fury on Soul Cleave to heal yourself back up. We can also generate a large amount of Fury with an ability called Immolation Aura, which just deals passive AoE damage while it's active. Now that we've got the basics of our tank rotation down, let's cover cooldowns. Metamorphosis is our largest defensive CD. On a 3-minute cooldown, we turn into a demon for 15 seconds, which increases our current and max HP by 50% and our armor by 200%. While we're in this form, Shear generates us additional lesser soul fragments and Fury. Basically, when we're in meta, we become unkillable gods and heal for a crap ton. Next up, we have Fell Devastation, which is both a DPS cooldown and a defensive cooldown. This basically does a truckload of damage and healing for 2 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown and costs 50 Fury. Finally, we have Fiery Brand. On a 1-minute cooldown, we put a dot on a single enemy that deals damage to them and reduces our damage taken from that enemy by 40% for 10 seconds. Once this 10-second debuff ends, we gain a damage absorption shield that scales based on how much damage we dealt during that debuff window. Now that we've covered our defensive kit, let's quickly go over our sigils. Sigils are AoE abilities we have that provide some kind of utility. Sigil of Flame is the one we'll use most often, and this is just an AoE damage effect we place on the ground to deal damage. We'll use this to grab Snap Threat in larger pools. Sigil of Misery is just an AoE fear. Sigil of Silence is, well, you guessed it, it's an AoE silence effect. We can also talent into an additional sigil called Sigil of Chains, which will pull all enemies in a 30-yard range to its center and snare them. This works similarly to the Blood DK's Gorfine Grasp ability. Outside of sigils, we have some other utility worth talking about. Namely, Infernal Strike, which functions exactly like Warrior's Heroic Leap, Imprison, which is a very useful CC, and Consume Magic, which functions as a purge to remove enemy buffs. It's also worth noting that our baseline interrupt ability, Disrupt, will generate us a significant amount of Fury when we successfully interrupt an enemy. Now with our base toolkit covered, let's get into talents and what's looking strongest for Shadowlands. Abyssal Strike is my go-to talent option for Mythic Plus. Being able to bounce from pack to pack while automatically placing my Sigil of Flame is amazing for both speed and damage. Feast of Souls will be my option for easier Mythic Plus weeks, since the passive bonus healing is always useful, and I'll take Burning Alive for more dangerous keys or affix weeks. I'll take Spirit Bomb, again for easier keys, as the AoE damage and healing is hard to beat. For more single target encounters or higher Mythic Plus pushes, I'll probably take Charred Flesh. Feed the Demon will be the best option until we get later in the expansion and have higher haste to help reduce the cooldown of demon spikes. Next, Unless I'm running a dungeon with a lot of annoying caster mobs that requires Sigil of Chains, I will almost always take Quicken Sigils to make my sigils go off faster. Demonic is where it's at for Mythic Plus, as having the meta effect of Demon Form for 6 seconds after every Fel Dev is incredibly powerful. Finally, we'll be taking Last Resort again in Shadowlands, as having a cheat death effect for high Mythic Plus pushes will prevent wipes and save keys. Now for legendary effects in Shadowlands. Dark Glare Boon will be best for increased uptime on Fel Devastation and more damage, and will likely be the one I'll take to start. For defensive options, we'll want Fel Flame Fortification for keys that have a lot of magic damage, and we might want Fiery Soul for higher key pushes. And that wraps up my Vengeance Demon Hunter guide for Shadowlands. It was a lot to go over, so let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Drop me a like and a sub if you like my content, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!